Hi everyone, this is Kathy. Welcome back to my channel. I was diagnosed with chronic migraine syndrome back in 2019 and I've been getting headaches ever since I was a kid. As of recently, I haven't been getting headaches as often as I used to. I used to get 4 to 5 headaches every week, but now I'm only getting 1 to 2 headaches every other week, which is honestly a miracle because I have no idea how I was pushing through all of that pain I was experiencing. I'm gonna share with you all my story leading up to getting diagnosed with chronic migraine syndrome, the reason I believe I was suffering from chronic migraine syndrome, and how I was able to change my lifestyle so I have control over my migraines and my headaches, and it's something that I don't really have to deal with too often now. I got my first headache when I was 9 years old, and when I told my parents, my mom gave me a cold compress and put it on my head, which kind of helped a little bit, but it didn't really help much. My father suffered from headaches, so I just thought it was something common in my family. In my preteen years, I would get around 2 to 3 headaches a week, but in high school, that's when my headaches got progressively worse and they turned into migraines. My headaches went from 2 to 3 times a week to lasting 2 to 3 days on end. So I would go to sleep with a headache, wake up with a headache, and it was just repeating itself every day. I used to commute to high school and my commute was an hour and 15, an hour and 20 minutes. And when I tell you that commute was the most excruciating thing I had to do all day, just the walking up the stairs was excruciating. The lights in the train was really painful to look at. So to soothe my pain, I would have to close my eyes the whole train ride and hope and pray the train would hurry up so I could just go to school. There were days in high school where I couldn't hang out with my friends because I was just in so much pain. I wanted to run home and just lay down on my bed. And when I got home, I would try to take a nap, but that nap didn't even help. Laying my head on the pillow just hurt so bad. Like when I tell you nothing could have helped my headaches, like nothing could have helped my headaches. Most of the time I would just be in my room with the lights off, the curtains down, trying to make my room as dark as I possibly could because any form of light would just irritate my eyes. My mom and my dad would check up on me and just be like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, it's just another headache. I would toss and turn all night trying to find a comfortable position to sleep in. But sleeping was so difficult because I was in so much pain. I would take Tylenol and Aleve hoping that it would help, and it did help for a few months. But after I realized that taking 3 pills every day is just not healthy for me, so I stopped doing that. Instead, I turned to Excedrin tension headache, which did help, but then I had to boost the dose to 3 pills a day, and I just did not want to do that to my health. There were days where I couldn't get out of bed because I was in so much pain. In my freshman year of college, I had the worst migraine I ever had up to that point in my life. I had to skip school that day because I could not move my body. Any slight movement I made, I was just in excruciating pain. I didn't go to the hospital because I was so afraid of the unknown. I knew something was wrong with me, but I didn't want to know what it was. I was just so afraid of knowing what that could possibly be. But I did promise myself when a headache like this happened again, I would go to the hospital. In my junior year of college, my migraines got worse. They turned into vertigo migraines. I remember waking up one morning and I just opened my eyes, laying my head on the pillow, and the room was just spinning. I could not get up that morning because I just knew I was gonna tip over or something, like really badly hurt myself. So that's when I decided to go see a neurologist, and he did diagnose me with chronic migraine syndrome in 2019. And then he prescribed me with Aimovig. So it was like this EpiPen type of shot. You just put it in your bicep, and I took one of those and it made my headaches worse. I then started to feel this uncontrollable desire to just eat everything I saw in sight, and I knew that wasn't like me, and I had a feeling it had to do with the Aimovig. Aimovig was only on the market for 2 years at this point, which meant there's still side effects that are unknown. So I had a feeling it had to do with the Aimovig. I stopped seeing that doctor and then I stopped taking the Aimovig. At this point, I really didn't know what to do but just to continue my life in pain. I knew migraines and headaches were something doctors didn't understand, and I knew that there was no cure for them. I started to think about my future with headaches and migraines, if I would be able to maintain a job with these episodes of pain. And then I read that headaches and migraines only get worse as you get older for females, and they even get worse when you're pregnant. So that's when I felt really sad because I know I want to start a family one day, and to know that the most happiest time of my life is going to be spent in even more pain I just knew I had to prepare somehow for this pain. I kept going on with my life as normally as I possibly could, trying my best to navigate this pain. Going to the gym was really difficult for me. I was trying to go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week, but I would get headaches 4 to 5 times a week, so that would really stop me from working out. On the days I wanted to go to the gym but I had a headache, I would have to prepare myself for the gym in the morning to go in the evening. And the way I would prepare for the gym is by drinking a ton of caffeine, a ton of electrolytes, a bunch of water, and make sure to eat a sufficient amount of food. And hopefully when the evening comes, which is like 5 or 6 p.m., I would feel good enough and go to the gym. This isn't like the typical person where you usually prep like an hour or 30 minutes before going to the gym. Like I literally had to prep in the morning to hopefully go to the gym in the evening. And there were times where this method of caffeine, electrolytes, water, and food didn't work for me and I was just stuck at home. On February 7, 2021, I got the worst migraine I ever had in my entire life. The slightest movement I made, I was in excruciating pain. And that's when I was like, okay, I promised myself I would go to the hospital if I felt this pain ever again. So I went to the hospital. They gave me a CAT scan and thankfully nothing was wrong with me. I was just so happy that there was nothing physically wrong with my body and I could finally be at peace knowing I was healthy. But at the same time, there was no answers as to why I was getting migraines and headaches. I was in so much pain that I wanted to cry, but I knew crying didn't help. I just wanted to throw up so bad, but I knew also throwing up would hurt even more. So that was my life until I started seeing my holistic doctor, Sarah, in September of 2021. I turned to holistic medicine because I felt like conventional medicine failed me because of that one doctor that prescribed me Aimovig. It made my headaches worse and then just enhanced my appetite. I told her I had chronic migraines ever since I was a child, and she said pediatric migraines are caused by trauma being experienced as a child. When she said that, I immediately broke down. At the age of 9, I was molested by my father's employee and I knew my innocence was robbed from me. My thoughts went from, what crafts am I gonna do today, to thankfully nothing worse happened to me. At the age of 9, I fell into a deep depression, developed anxiety, and all of my confidence and self-esteem just went down the drain. I would cry every night trying to get rid of this pain I felt deep in my soul. I was hoping my parents would hear me, but at the same time, I didn't want them to hear me because I just wanted to be left alone in my suffering. I didn't tell my parents how sad I was, and I didn't really know what to do. In high school, my parents got divorced, and that's when my whole world was flipped upside down again. And this was the time when my headaches got worse. I was experiencing all of this stress and I didn't know how to handle it. Having gone through this trauma, choosing the right friendships and romantic relationships was really hard for me to do. Sarah was the first person I've ever told any of these things to. I'm a first-generation Honduran American and therapy doesn't exist for us, and we don't really talk about our feelings or our emotions. Although she was my holistic doctor, our sessions turned into therapy sessions. She helped me learn how to forgive myself for not knowing any better and to trust that I did the best I could when I was in those really tough situations I was in. I cried a lot after that session with Sarah, but I also knew I was releasing trapped pain. I realized I hadn't been able to live the life I truly wanted to live because of the trauma I experienced, and that's when I knew I had a lot of work to do. I started working on healing my wounds and healing my soul. I started reading, going to therapy, seeing an acupuncturist. I told my acupuncturist I had chronic migraine syndrome, and she helped me release the tension in my neck, my back, and my head. After my acupuncturist appointments, I was in a lot of pain, but I just felt so much better than when I walked in. And that's when I realized I internalized all of my problems and I keep my trauma stored in my body. According to the Center for Clinical Psychology, trauma not only affects us mentally, but it can manifest itself in our body. Symptoms that trauma has manifested itself in our body are headaches and general body pain, difficulty falling asleep, having restless sleep, and strange physical sensations. These are symptoms I have struggled with. I've always struggled falling asleep as a kid and in my early adulthood years. I used to play music to help me fall asleep. Coldplay and Adele were like my go-to music. I would sleep for 10+ hours and feel worse than before I went to bed. One of the strange physical body sensations I experienced was getting chills and always feeling cold. I was always cold growing up, and it's still something I struggle with. Chills and being cold are symptoms of anxiety. Every time I feel my anxiety kick in, I just start getting really cold. And it's a coldness that I just can't control. I'll put on my jacket when the whole room is warm, but I just feel so cold because of my anxiety. I would get so cold sometimes my teeth would chatter. I have linked the articles down in the description box where I got this information from if you want to read more about it. Trauma can manifest itself in our bodies because of the physical reaction our bodies have to stress and trauma. My body automatically tenses up when I'm under any sort of stress. Every time I get anxious or find myself in a stressful situation, my neck, back, and shoulders tense up and my breathing becomes super shallow. Shallow breathing is normal when you have anxiety or when you're experiencing stress because your psoas, your fight or flight muscle, tenses up, which causes shallow, quick chest breathing. Although this type of breathing is normal when you're under stress, a lot of people breathe like this on a daily basis. And they don't even realize it. I used to be one of those people that was chest breathing and I had no idea. The correct way to breathe is through diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing. I go over diaphragmatic breathing in my other video, which I'll link down below, and I talk about it at 5 minutes and 5 seconds. We need to learn how to navigate our traumas, our stress, our emotion, and give our bodies the attention it needs to heal ourselves from these chronic conditions. If you or someone you know is suffering from chronic migraine syndrome, it has to be because of the trauma you've experienced as a child or in your early adulthood, or it could just be poor stress management. There is no set reason as to why people develop chronic migraine syndrome, but I do believe trauma does manifest itself in our bodies. Here are 7 lifestyle changes I've made in order to heal my chronic migraine syndrome and get my headaches from 5 times a week to 1 to 2 headaches every other week. Number 1, I found a therapist to help guide me on my healing journey. Finding the right therapist can be difficult, so keep trying until you find the right one. Sarah technically wasn't a therapist, so I had to actually find a therapist. I've seen 2 different therapists and the second therapist was the right fit for me. Healing after going through trauma is not easy, so please, please, please be gentle with yourself and seek help. Seeking help does not make you weak. Don't let anyone tell you your feelings are invalid and don't expect people to understand what you're going through. No one can really truly understand your trauma unless they've experienced something to that magnitude. When you begin healing, it might be a lonely journey because not everyone chooses to heal, and that's okay too. Healing is not easy, so don't expect others to want to heal as well. Number 2, I've done acupuncture, massage therapy, and yoga to help me release my tight muscles. I was seeing my acupuncturist consistently from February 2022 to November 2022, but now I'm only doing massage therapy and yoga. The acupuncture helped tremendously, and this might sound crazy, but this just goes to show you that trauma really does store itself in our bodies. When my acupuncturist did my inner thighs, my back, and my hamstrings, I just started crying. Like, it just felt like I was releasing this trapped pain that I felt. And it's not that I was crying from the pain, I was just crying from this release of energy that I felt. It was really strange, but if anyone knows what I'm talking about, please leave a comment down below because I want to know if anyone else has experienced this before. Number 3, I manage my stress levels and I journal every day. Even though my acupuncturist has released some of the tension in my body, I need to make sure my muscles don't tense up again. This meant I needed to learn what my triggers are. When I would remember a situation that made me want to cry, I would relive that memory and just cry and just relive that pain so I can heal from that trauma. Crying has helped me release the pain and move on from that trauma. I journal every day to make sure I maintain a positive outlook on life and so I don't go into a downward spiral of negativity because of my trauma. Number 4, I honored my feelings and gave my body the break that it needed. I used to ignore my headaches and my migraines to the point where I was just making them worse. There are always a million things for me to do every day, and I would just overwhelm myself because I wanted to accomplish those things, but I was also in pain and I didn't know what to do. And what I should have done is put myself first and give my body the rest that it needed. I had to break down my workload and my schedule to include breaks, drinking water throughout the day, and give myself a chance to have a breather. If you're not feeling well, give your body the rest that it needs. If you need to take the day off because your job is going to be fine without you. you. You are your first priority. Number 5, I began to prioritize my health and find out what my body needs. Every day, I make sure I wake up early enough to make myself coffee and have breakfast. If I skip breakfast, I'm more than likely to have a headache. So with my work schedule, I'm waking up at 5 a.m. just to make sure I get breakfast and I have my coffee before going to work. I also try not to go 3 to 4 hours without eating anything because then I can potentially get a headache from hunger. I prioritize my protein intake to make sure I stay full for longer. I also drink a gallon of water a day, and I'm eating fruits and vegetables every day to make sure my body's getting the nutrients that it needs. I'm also cooking my breakfast and my dinner at home and cooking lunch at home as much as I can. I also supplement with magnesium malate. According to the National Library of Medicine, there is a connection between mild to moderate tension-like headaches and migraines. I've linked the brand I use down in the description box below. Number 6, I corrected my breathing. Deep breathing, also called diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, allows your nervous system to relax and more oxygen to flow in your body. So when you're under stress or when you're feeling anxious, make sure that you're actually breathing and not holding in your breath or doing chest shallow breathing. I go over deep breathing or diaphragmatic breathing in my previous video, which I'll link down below. Number 7, the last thing I did was I started living a life that's in true alignment with who I am. I really started to think about who I am and what I really want in this life. I started to think about what I already have in my life and if it's in alignment with who I am. What kind of career do I want where I'm gonna feel fulfilled in the work that I'm doing? I broke off romantic relationships and friendships that were no longer in alignment with who I am. When you're growing and becoming the person you want to become, not everyone's gonna come along for that journey, and that's okay because it's your journey and no one else's. You have to put yourself first and prioritize your happiness. I've implemented all of these changes in the past year and I've seen a huge change in my overall quality of life. I can't promise you anything, but I'm sure if you tried all of these things that I've done, you're gonna see a huge change in your life too and a drastic difference in your headaches and migraines. Remember to be patient with yourself because the journey to healing from chronic migraine syndrome was not easy for me, but it was definitely worth it. Please leave a comment down below if you have any questions at all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and most importantly, show love to your mind, body, and soul. See you all in the next video. Bye. We need to heal our bodies in order to heal ourselves from these chronic diseases. What?